Can you hear me? Oh, I've got lollies. Do you now hate me because I didn't give you lollies? Oh, so you love me, then you hate me. You just take it away. I always wondered how the gifts got under my tree before Christmas, before I woke up. No, but the point is that grace is like a gift which Santa or our parents, whatever, are going to give to us. Whether we're naughty or nice, it's still going to be unmerited favour. Do we have the words unmerited favour up there yet? No. All right. So here's a story. I'll be honest, I made it up the other day, so it's not like some great story, and it's a fictional story. Richard. There was a man named Richard, and the first picture can go up. Richard found himself in the long line for eternal judgment. And at the front of the line, there's a sign, and the sign said, please wait behind the line until you're called and answer all questions honestly. He started to feel a bit nervous, and he quickly began reviewing all of the good things he did in his life, getting together his resume for heaven. Next, he heard it was his turn. He approached the angel, who was sitting behind a nice little desk, and he smiled and confidently offered his hand for a handshake as he would in a job interview. But the angel busied his hands otherwise, getting out a massive book that said, The Life of Richard Goodman, and had his address written below it. The angel politely asked, and why do you think you should go to heaven, Richard? As he browsed the contents of the book. Now, Richard was a little startled by the accent, which I promise will probably get worse during the rest of this message, by the accent, and began attempting to answer, well, I led a good life. I was good in school, I made the most of my abilities, and I never failed anything in uni. Oh, very good, the angel replied. A little more confidently, Richard continued. Well, I paid off my HECS debts, I always paid my taxes, I saved well, and that's not all. I actually started giving money to the poor when I had a steady income, gave money to Amnesty International, I had a sponsor child, gave money to the Bob Hollows Association. If you're giving money, I think that's a good place to give money to. Anyway, oh, how generous, the angel commented. Yes, and I've always been faithful to my wife. I brought up good kids, and I was a good friend, and, oh, that's quite enough. Thank you, Richard. It looks like you've lived a relatively good life. You can continue on now, the angel said as he motioned towards some big pearly gates. And so Richard gladly walked through the gates. The architecture was pretty incredible. No streets of gold, but it was impressive enough. Though heaven, he thought to himself, seemed a little dark and a little deserted. Anyway, he kept walking for a while until he met a couple of people moving out of home. As he approached, he was a little bit surprised that these guys, they were grumbling about their neighbours. And he thought, oh, well, maybe in heaven, even in heaven, you know, maybe neighbours can be bad news. Where am I? He thought, so he struck up a conversation with them. And he quickly realised that he had gone to school with one of these people. And this person used to be quite a bully. The conversation went on for a while, and eventually Richard said, well, I guess you're a bit embarrassed about all of that stuff back then. What do you mean? The bully replied. Well, all that mean stuff you said to me, and how you pushed me around a bit, you know, I guess we can sort that out now. Look, mate, the bully replied. As far as I remember, you were a pretentious little kid in school, always looking down your nose at people. And all of that was a long time ago. If you think that you're getting an apology from me, You've got another thought coming, mate. Richard was shocked. He thought everyone was meant to be nice in heaven. And this guy seemed like he was ready for a fight. This guy seemed like he was ready for a fight. So he went looking for God to try to tell him, hey God, you know, heaven is not really working out. But he couldn't find God, so he went, oh I see, I turned the page, that's why. So he went looking at, so he couldn't find God, so he ended up going back to the gates to find the angel to complain to him. When he arrived, the gates were closed and the angels were about to leave. I guess it was the end of their shift or something. And he said, hey, hey! So he's stuck behind these gates at this point. Hey, hey! He yelled at the angel. There's been a mistake. There's some real jerks in here. The angel came over. Yes, whatever is the problem? Well, you've put me here with all these sinners. And where's God? This heaven of yours is pretty average. Oh, I'm so sorry. There has been a mistake. You think you're in heaven. What? I mean, but you said I was a relatively good person. Yes, relatively good. But weren't you a good person? Remember all the people you rejected on earth? You were no better than them. You couldn't live up to your own standards. What about God's? And you ignored God your whole life. You didn't want anything to do with him then. I'm trying to do Irish. But God's forgiving, right, he said. Yes, and gracious, but marvellously just as well. Marvellously just as well, if you didn't pick up the accent. The only way to heaven is trusting Jesus' death with your sin and punishment. By rejecting him, you rejected his gift. What? No! Richard yelled as he woke up in a cold sweat. Worst ending to a story, I know. He knew it was a dream, but he was furious. He thought, I'm not that bad. Why would I go to hell? And why can't God just get over the stuff that I did wrong? What's the big deal?